Hey, it's Casimir Engine Show podcast. It's another special. And do you know what? The sun came out today. Unbelievable. Never been heard of before.
You're listening to the Casimir
Ka. Hasn't that
That's
been done
me.
to death? Isn't that so 90s?
You think so?
Casimir Engine.
It's the Casimir engine. It's not Ka.
Right, fancy mouse work.
Oi, Casimir Engine! I've listened to your show and it's a shambles!
Oh, yes, almost seamless. So why is it different then, Kaz? Well, we've been inundated with interviews. Last week we met. I've still got me. I've still got me emails open. Last week we met up with Mark Gwyn Jones, and this week, carrying on with the spoken word thing, we met up with Emily and John from Rose and Cloud for a quick chat, a cup of tea. Well, I was drinking tea. I think they were drinking wine. So we had a lovely chat. I managed to build up the courage to ask them to play a couple of pieces. So we've got some live music and spoken word. And it was all very, very nice. So you're going to meet up with them. Where can we get in touch with them? You can get in touch with Rose and Cloud at Rose AND Cloud CLOUD. Make that more sense. ROSE AND CLOUD.com. And then you can get onto their Instagram, you can find out dates, you can see the news, you can get onto their Bandcamp so you can buy some of their stuff. So, yeah, we're going to be chatting with them. If you want to get in touch with the show, don't forget www.casimirengine.com for all the episodes. At Casimir Podcast, nearly forgot, on Twitter, at Casimir Podcast on Facebook, Casimir Engine, all one word, on Instagram. I'm off down to Wirksworth to compete in the international Marmalade Championships. I've got 2 jars, one with ginger in it and one is standard Seville orange. Could I be coming back with a trophy? Me don't think so, but I can only try. Hey, let's meet Rose and Cloud.
Okay.
Our video's on.
It's my video.
Okay.
Hey!
Hello.
Hey, look at that.
Sorted.
Can you hear us okay?
He's an ace, isn't it?
Is, yeah. How's Potato Gate?
Oh, don't.
It's a bad one as well, potatoes. That's worse than not getting the chicken out the freezer, that is.
The worst thing is, I got a note as well. I got a note, put the potatoes on at 6 o'clock. So I sat there watching the clock and then put them on at 7:15. I don't know why. I just don't know why.
They're never going to be done in time.
No.
What are you thinking?
So that's what microwaves are for.
No, this isn't going to be a short one, I can tell.
Yeah, hurry up. Yeah, get some poetry done. I've got potatoes on the go.
Yeah.
Shall we start? How long have we been going already? Yeah. So no, we can
forever.
We'll
we do this. We'll take you off on a tangent. Just tell us to shut up.
No, that's okay. I'll just leave this in. It fills out shows. That's what.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Give me 1 minute to make sure that I've got my lyrics, and then because we could always. Are you going to cut it and stuff anyway?
No,
you're just going to leave it. Okay, make sure I've got those first. So when we start to perform, so I'm not just sitting here on my phone like, oh no.
Oh no, I can. I can slice it up because I think it'll go over an hour probably. It normally does. Do you know?
It's like he's heard us do this before.
Well, I was gutted because I thought I might be your first podcast, but I am not.
Oh, unfortunately not.
No.
You're not my first poets though, so Even
I tell you what, though, I think you might be our first UK podcast.
Yeah.
Were they American?
Yeah.
Yeah, the two we did were American. So that's
right.
exciting.
Anyway, I better do the introduction. After all that, I'll do the introduction.
Yeah, let's do this.
So, and I've written something as well. So this is like a change of we're changing slightly because I've written a proper introduction. So anyway, first of all, let me introduce Rose and Cloud, Emily Rose Galvin, and John McLeod. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
perfect.
is that right? Sorry, did I say? I hope I said that right. That's not the introduction, by the way. Are you thinking, cracking?
Okay.
That didn't take a lot.
And then I waved, and then thought, why am I waving? No one's going to hear that.
So my introduction is Rose and Cloud take spoken word and add in superbly subtle soundscapes. One feels that Rose and Cloud are reading found letters, heart-wrenching, making the everyday into a beautiful story. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I give you Rose and Cloud.
Hiya.
Is that right?
Hello. That was perfect.
Is that
That was
all right?
bang on.
I got that. I was watching Tea and Oranges when I wrote that out. I thought, yeah, that's a really nice bit of video, that is.
Oh, my heart is melting. That's the nicest thing
No
ever.
way! Thank you so much. Can you ring Mrs. Engine and explain what I've just done, and then say the potatoes? It's all right. Don't worry about the potato.
Perfect.
You're entirely forgiven for the potatoes.
Oh,
So-
yeah, 100%.
Welcome to the show. I've got
you very much.
a batch of questions for you, but we usually start off with the same kind of format. Where are you both from? Originally and now,
John?
I suppose.
You can go first, John.
I have always lived in Newcastle-under-Lyme,
Oh, right. Okay.
which is that's how you can tell somebody from Stoke who doesn't live in Stoke City addresses themselves. They live in Newcastle-under-Lyme, not a metre over. And so, yes, here is where I is, and here is where I has always been.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're talking from Newcastle now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I am born and bred in Lichfield.
Yep.
Spent some time in Birmingham for university, but other than that, I managed to move house about 200 yards down the road. So never left, but I have taken up the role as an honorary Stokey after coming here about 2 years ago and being blown away by the music and artistic scene. So I spend all my time here, really.
Oh, wow. Is it quite the place then? Stoke's quite the place for music and stuff like that these days?
Yeah. I feel I can probably say this more than you can, because it did take me by surprise.
Yeah, it's taken me by surprise as well, really.
Yeah. Well, anybody from outside of Stoke just assumes Stoke is the worst, I think. Like,
It's a bit harsh.
It's also kind
Harsh
of true.
but true, yeah. Harsh
It
but
doesn't
true.
get a good press.
It doesn't get good press. And I came here, so it's coming up to 2 years ago now since I first set foot. Other than Buffet Island, which I've said that used to be in Newcastle, I've been there a couple of times. And I was doing something for the Edinburgh Bridgewater Festival in a factory.
Okay.
And kind of got to find this scene that was so, I want to say up and coming, but also welcoming.
Yeah.
As somebody from outside of Stoke, there were no walls put up ever. You can sort of, I did come in and say, I would like to do this and I would like to do this. And you just get a whole host of people saying, yeah, go for it.
Hey, brilliant.
It's a really exciting place to be.
I've been haunting the music scene for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I think since about 98. And I've sort of been in and out of bands. I've done solo stuff and played music for other people. And a project that I was in the middle of, we'd just kind of released an EP. And at that point, I'd kind of was trying to figure out how to restructure it and was just a little bit meh. And at that point, we were at the Honey Box in Newcastle, which is just down the road from me. It's like a 2-minute walk.
What's the Honey Box? Is that a pub or?
It's kind of like Stoke Music Scene's answer to Later with Jules Holland.
Oh,
That's
right,
exactly
okay.
what it is.
Yeah. And I've been going to all of these since it started. Apart from every now and again, they managed to make them clash with something I'm going to. But January last year, I was just sort of slouched over the bar, exchanging pleasantries with Chris Wilson, as I am supremely wont to do. And he introduced me to Emily. And we daintily shook hands, and life has not been the same since.
No, it has not.
No.
Very
you
good.
can make of that what you will.
Well, before we get up to kind of, are you both from, were you musical children? Are you from musical families, or?
Yes, possibly. I know my mum and dad play music together, and I have sometimes drummed for them or played guitar with them.
Yeah.
I think I kind of found my way into music sort of separate to their influence, but it's yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it.
See, I think I'm the opposite to you. I was incredibly influenced by my parents, music taste-wise.
Yeah.
So my dad was big into his Smiths and also the Jam.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute,
Generally,
right?
Roxy.
You're mentioning bands that I'm thinking, but they're like modern bands, and then I've just realised I'm probably
not
same
so
age
much.
as your parents.
Not so much.
Take stock of what year it is.
I was the nerdy kid listening to, The Who. My dad was listening to, giving me records. Who else was big? Is Roxy music, Beatles. My mom was very much into folk music. My fondest and most prevailing memories, not folk music, but mom used to dance around the house with a tambourine to Elton John. So there was always music in the house, and she was like a cartoon character. Fully, she's quite small, but she's got some bounce with the tambourine. She really does. So none of them. My mum can play guitar and sing, but they never really taught us.
No.
But my sister is an incredible singer-songwriter. So I think just generally having that musical influx throughout the house forced us into that.
Yeah. My mum was always dancing to Led Zeppelin.
Cool.
Dancing to Red Zeppelin? I said Red there.
That's the well-known tribute band. Fleetwood Mac is another one.
Yes.
Fleetwood Mac is something that we all kind of got into. Weirdly, around about the time, do you remember when they put out that live DVD called The Dance?
I can't remember, no.
And it was filmed, it was one of the first things they'd done for like years with the lineup with Lindsey Buckingham.
Oh, right, okay,
Stevie
before
Nicks
the big,
thing. It was like 96.
Wow.
96, 97, something like that. And a friend of ours visited the house and brought a video of it with him. And we used to just every now and again just watch that. That was something that we really gathered around.
Yeah.
My dad tried to teach me to play guitar about 2 or 3 times. My dad is very methodical.
Okay.
And very kind of structured with his guitaring.
Which is kind of the antithesis of how you play guitar.
Very, very much. And so I think because of that, it took me a lot longer to get into playing guitar. I went to go and see Neil Finn on his solo tour in '98.
Were you just like, no, I don't want to play Leaving on a Jet Plane. I don't want to know the chords for this.
He was trying to teach me like kind of classical things. Yeah. And I kind of wanted... I wasn't good with scales.
I can see you there doing classical jazz. That's fantastic.
And so I just wanted to learn how to play chords, and I wanted to be able to structure chords in a way that would enable me to put music to lyrics and things.
Yeah.
And so I went to go and see Neil Finn, and I walked out of the Apollo in Manchester thinking, right, that's what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
Borrowed a chord book of Crowded House songs, taught myself 3 within a week.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad came back from holiday, and all of a sudden I was playing songs.
But they're all right not with you.
Oh no, we tried so hard.
But is that not the problem with learning guitar? Kids go to a guitar teacher, and they Well, they're always taught, like you say, Spanish guitar or something like that.
Yeah.
When really you want to pick a song, I don't know, think of an easy song to play. Not House of the Rising Sun, because that's a...
I was going to say House of the Rising Sun's one of the first that
everybody plays it.
Scarborough Fair was another one as well. That's very, very simple.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But you could play something. You want to play something really cool, don't you? That's all you want to do when you're a kid. That's all you want to be.
I mean, Oasis release songs and they have 3 chords in. So why are we not teaching that?
Exactly. It's one of those things where you've got to find your in, and I don't always, with the nicest of intentions, I don't think a parent can always teach you the way into music that you want to learn.
Yeah, well, my parents did a good job, but that's
my dad is firmly rooted in the 50s, which is really good. It's really, I love that it sparks him,
and it'll have influenced you somewhere, and you don't know to take on a tangent, as we often do. You could say the same for learning anything. Yeah. And that's one of my biggest arguments for kind of poetry curriculums.
Yeah.
That things that are prescribed, technical, find a love for it first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Drive a love for it first. There is plenty of time to learn and hone your craft.
Yeah.
And you will as soon as you learn it. But if you don't love it first... Studying it, if you studied songs that you love, study a Beatles song when you were a kid and learnt the music to it, you wouldn't love it in the same way.
Yeah.
Sort of having that rawness first, I think the passion for it is the most important.
And then you have the desire to kind of learn the rules and to how to build things around it.
Yeah. You learn the rules and then you learn how to break the rules.
Yeah.
But
you do realise you've just answered half the questions already, and it was...
Sorry, I know.
we are... That is our forte.
Well, I got John.
We just don't shut up. That's the problem.
I've got to show you. I've got to see if I can show you this. Look, it probably comes out backwards, but is that the bit? And it's got John and asterisk next
John,
to it.
What's your background? Did you become musical?
Did you become a musician?
Yeah.
My handwriting's shocking.
Your handwriting is amazing.
No, it's shocking.
Something
It
about
says,
heavy metal at the bottom.
What do you play? So musical instruments. What's your favourite genre? And I'm hoping it's death metal.
Yeah.
I really like your handwriting. It's very runic.
It is runic.
I think my mum wanted me to be a doctor, but I can only write like one. That was the only thing, and nobody could.
Far too late for a doctor.
You're doing half the work.
So what is your what do you play?
Musically,
Guitar.
I guitar. I do bass. I can drum. I started out as a drummer.
Oh right, okay.
And I mean, I can't play piano, but I like, sometimes when I get the chance, I like to noodle on the keyboard a little bit.
What? So you mentioned that your parents had given you sort of schooling in, but not in drums. Surely not in drums.
Not in drums. No. Well, my parents bought me a drum kit when I was about 17, and I used to play the very devil out of that thing. Yeah. I miss it eternally. It was in our sort of side room, because we were semi-detached, so they put the drum kit in the room that wasn't joined onto the house.
Yeah, probably best.
Thinking.
And my sister tells me that she could hear me drumming from the top of the street when she was walking home from school.
Oh, no.
And then
Such
I started. Yeah. Yeah, I was well loved. But
there's no percussion in Rose and Cloud.
Not yet.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the thing that's kind of exciting me is, as we go on with Rose and Cloudy stuff, is there's always going to be that disconnect from what we make on a recording compared to what we can do live, and our live shows will more than likely, not saying never, but will more than likely always be what we do
together.
Well,
we have enough set up with your 17 guitars and a pedal, so we don't need to throw everything else into there.
Well, this is it. We don't want to add into our lead time. But in terms of recording, there's a lot of scope to kind of play with sounds in a way. And
strings. I really want strings in there.
Ooh.
Strings is a big one for me. That's what I want to try and...
I know a man who can arrange them.
So,
there you go.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that has prevented us from having drums in so far is because when we recorded... When did we record the EP?
It was June and July.
June and July, and we started as officially Rose and Cloud in April. So by that time we were still playing around with our own sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
The recording process for us was very much as it is live. We went in, we did both parts together live.
Okay, so you don't like track it with guitar and vocal on top and no.
When we came to doing pickups, we went and re-recorded a few things separately.
Yeah.
And overlaid them. But those mainly the tracks are as live. Yeah. Because that's how we work best. There's a natural synergy that comes between the two of us.
Well, if you're almost ready, I've got one more question, and then do you want to do something for us?
Yeah, we'd love to. Yeah.
So I've got my. I'll hold this up again. I'll hold my piece of paper up. There's one. There's a Emily question there.
Yeah,
that does actually say that, right? And it says
it does.
I had a chat with Mark Gwyn-Jones last week, and I asked, did you have posters of poets on the wall as a child?
No.
Okay.
I wish I'd been that cool. So
neither did Mark, by the way. He didn't either. But
I tell this story all the time that going through poetry at school, I was a writer, I was a reader the entire time. I feel like since I was born, but that's an exaggeration. But I never wrote poetry, and I never enjoyed... There were snippets of stuff we did. We did a little bit of Carol Ann Duffy that I got on with. We did a war poetry, which everyone respects and loves. We did a bit of Robert Frost, which interestingly I was reading back the other evening. And
so do you read poetry now, other people's poetry? Is that for inspiration or just to...
It's mostly out of enjoyment.
Keep your eye in or whatever.
I don't think I ever do it to keep my eye in. It's interesting to see how trends move.
Yeah.
But I found a love for it. My love for it only ever came... It started with writing it. Okay. And I sort of kind of, as a lot of people do when they begin to write poetry, sort of purge everything through that, and it's great. It's a fantastic tool for dealing with mental health, for dealing with any issues you're going through, for dealing with, I can't cope with how beautiful the snow looks today over that view, I need to write something about it.
Okay.
Reconciling the past.
Yeah, reconciling the past, yeah. All of these things. As you write more, you begin to appreciate other people's writing more. Okay. And now, I mean, I used to get through couple of novels a week. I don't read a lot of novels anymore because I can't get enough of reading poetry, whether that be an entire book by a contemporary, whether that be going back and looking, like I said, at the stuff I did in A-level, or the Poetry Society app is a great one. They have a poem of the day that comes up. Twitter's a great one, people retweeting stuff.
I don't know what it is.
It's healthy for your own writing as well as your own enjoyment to be taking in what other people are doing.
I think I was in one of the greatest bookshops in the world, Scarthin Books in Cromford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. So when you come to Matlock Bath, you can go to Scarthin Books just down the road.
Yeah, fantastic.
But I always find it daunting when you open a book of poetry and it's kind of a lot of page with a little square bit of words in the middle, and I don't know what it is. It's just, I think
you find it more.
Yeah,
the white space is daunting to you.
Yeah, it's like a fear factor of it. I think, and thinking, I'm just not going to get this. Without even reading it, I'm just not going to get it. And I don't know why. I think I've got to... What do you recommend? Do you have to just dive in? Do you have to buy... Is there like a beginner's guide to enjoying poetry or something like that?
No, because everybody's different, and poetry is subjective.
Okay.
For me, I have to find a poem that something in it resonates with me. Whether that be the subject matter or whether it be one line where I think, I love that one line. I love the way that they've encapsulated everything they mean in that singular line.
Yeah.
But I have to find a hook.
Okay.
I don't know whether I've got just a really bad attention span, but longer poems scare me more than shorter poems. Shorter poems I can digest a few times over.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is don't be scared of not getting it, and don't be scared of not liking it, because everybody's opinion is different.
Yeah.
I probably read 4 poems to every one that I dislike to like. But it's about going through that, and then you find out what your own opinion is. Okay, well, I like this style of poetry rather than this style, or I like this more than this, and I like this poet because they do this.
Yeah.
So wide reading is key, I would say, to find what your niche is.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to look into it a bit deeper then for me. So
it doesn't all have to cost money either. I mean, I go into Waterstones and cry because I can't afford to buy all of the books on the shelf, but things like the Poetry Society app, things like Twitter, follow some poets on Twitter. Because people retweet stuff that they've enjoyed. Subscribe to a magazine. Poetry Society's one. I'm trying to think. Poetry London is another great one. Pop Shot is fantastic. That's poetry to a theme. So every magazine has a theme.
Okay.
But each poem is illustrated as well by guest illustrators.
Yeah.
And you can get a subscription to a poetry magazine, and they normally come quarterly. It's about 20 quid a year.
Yeah.
So it doesn't break the bank, but you get a like a wealth of different styles.
Yeah.
And libraries.
The libraries.
Go check out your library.
Libraries are cool.
Yeah, they are cool.
Yeah, they are cool.
Your laureateship is extending even to now.
I know. I'm pushing everything.
Do you want to give us a bit of Rose and Cloud?
We'd love to.
Yeah.
We would love to. Let's start with a what if, because it's pretty. So we'll do one that we perform quite a lot, and we tend to finish sets with.
Okay.
Because for us it just sounds so hopeful. When I wrote it, I think I said this on the BBC the other day. I didn't feel like it was a hopeful poem to write. I felt like it was quite downbeat and a little bit melancholy, but it's one of those times where John's guitar it didn't change the meaning, but it uplifted it and gave it a different dimension. So there is still the melancholy to it.
But there's beauty in it.
But there's beauty in it and there's hope in it at the same time.
Okay.
But my voice doesn't flex around that much, so I can't do that.
I have to do the work.
Yes, you have to do all the work. That's how this works. So we're going to perform a what if, which is a poem about those moments where there's a whole heap of opportunity.
Okay.
So maybe you've met someone and you think, this could be soulmate territory, or maybe you've gone to an interview and you think this might be my perfect job. And in reality, nothing ever happens with that opportunity. But the fact that the premise was there is beautiful in itself. So this is a what if. Each second loops in mental revisitation. Flinching hands over glass ledges, and words we'll claim were never spoken, through unsolicited blushes and table-hidden touch. Adrenaline, anticipation, and the suffocation of knowing that across a dimension, if we could sidle through the gaps between each universe, cradled in blankets of predetermined, soul-told stardust, each part-lit walk, each skittish giggle, every half-brushed inch of skin, maybe, could be, life existent beyond the forbidden. And maybe that's why, in pastiche daydream memory, as my mouth finds mimicry of our suppression-led grin, I don't recall the moment our eyes met. Those moodstone constellations stay firmly planted upon hesitant ground. Neither of us so far taken with irresponsibility to let those galaxies ruinously collide. In this universe, a what if will remain enough. Thank
I
you
forgot to
very
switch
much.
the mic on. I was clapping away, and I'd switched the mic down so that I didn't disturb you if I clunked the microphone. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was
We're
beautiful.
disturbed enough already.
I'm going with, right, so I listened to some stuff today on YouTube, and listening to that, I'm going with the spoken word version of Everything But the Girl. I love Everything But the Girl, so I reckon, I think it's the, I don't know what it is, it's something about the guitar, and then it's something about that, and you summed it up perfectly, the melancholy of the subject. And it's something that you do, that you think there's a sadness, but there's a hope in it, like you said, John. So, that was absolutely... Here goes the technical one then. What comes first, music or words, and how do you not make it into a song?
Words have so far always come first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think because of the way we began this, we've mentioned Honeybox previously.
Yeah.
I was asked to appear on Honeybox at the time in the same room as two heavy metal bands.
Cool.
And I thought there's absolutely no way.
What did you need John then for? That you could have just done like...
So we weren't all performing together.
Emily was going to scream it off.
I was, but I'm a smoker, so I can't quite take that much. So it was going to be heavy metal band, then to Little Old Me, and then to another heavy metal band, and then to another metal band, and then back to Little Old Me, just reading some poetry. And I thought, this is going to jar, and it's going to sound a little bit strange. So I approached John and said, really cheekily, do you think there's any way you could possibly compose some music to go with the stuff that we're doing?
And I respond really well to cheeky.
Yeah.
I mean, Emily and I had met like 2 months previously, and we'd been laughing and kidding in all of that time. And then when Emily asked me to set music to poetry, I had never done anything like that before, because I've always just been writing songs and entirely failing to get them recorded for the most part.
Yeah. Was this recorded? Is this recorded by yourself or recorded in a studio and?
Just to kind of get things off the ground. I've been doing better. I had a band called the John McLeod Band, and I have a band called Attack of the Vapors, and so I've been doing stuff with those. I just kind of hit a bit of a trough, and it sounded like such an interesting prospect, and I was like, well, I can't really let this go, and bounded in feet first.
You did an amazing job.
Thank you very much.
So Emily came along with a poem and said, come on, John, Sort out a bit
Here's
of
a challenge.
music. Yeah, here's a bit of music.
I think the first time I recorded them for you, didn't I?
Yes.
So when we started, especially with those ones that we were doing for Honeybox, I sent a voice recording.
Oh, okay,
of
which
the
is
poem
so
over to John.
That's interesting then. So was it the lyrical, the sound of the words that decided where not necessarily the words, but the way? There's probably a poetry term for this.
Cadence.
I was going to say cadence.
Is it cadence? I was going to go with something, and I don't even know what it means. Pentameter or something?
Pentameter. So if I wrote in more of a...
Rhythmic.
Well, yeah, rhythmic or traditional form.
Yeah.
So Shakespeare's very well known for using iambic pentameter, which is a foot and a something else.
Foot and a half.
It's not a foot and a half. So that has that
which is kind of what it's kind. I'm going with I was right then. So it's my show.
Pentameter,
it's my show. I was right.
Yes, and that's why we don't have drums because I can't.
You can't do 4 to the floor.
I can't even do a haiku. I don't know. So because my poetry is slightly more free form, I think it helped John to begin with to hear how each how the phrasing was, I guess, and that's both a musical and a poetry term.
For me, when I was listening to what Emily had sent me, I adore Emily's words. I adore the way she says them. I will say this giddily to anyone who will listen. I love Emily's work because it's so evocative, and all the feeling and the meaning is right there, and it's kind of up to me to figure out how to put a spin on that to kind of to make it both our voices.
Yeah. But it has to go with the subject as well. You can't.
Yes.
And it does. It blends beautifully, so it's not jarring at all.
No, the one thing. I mean, I'm fascinated by this, amazed by it, because I've never experienced anything quite like it. Is that we are both sort of very emotionally and mentally in tune.
Yeah.
And so...
It sounds so cheesy. It sounds like you're cheating at something.
It does.
But it is true. We kind of latch on to each other's mental energy.
Yeah, really, really so well. And so we're now at the point where Emily's voice is very well lodged in my subconscious. So she can now send me things as a Word document.
Yeah.
And I can sit down, look at that, read it, and take everything I need from the words and figure out how to translate that onto the fretboard.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't know whether I'm making that sound more complicated or oversimplifying it, because it's ever such a strange process, and I never want to understand it.
Yeah. How do you not make it into a song then? How do you not all of a sudden start singing along to the melody, or using your words to go to the melody of the music?
Well, we're about to verge onto interesting territory here. Not that this territory wasn't already interesting. More interesting.
No, there's listeners who will argue. They'll argue.
I only open my mouth to change feet. But it's my songwriting process, especially actually for Attack of the Vapors, always tended to be I would plug my guitar into my amp through my pedal board, and I would play with sounds for a while, and sometimes I'd latch onto a sound or a sequence that I would find really engaging, and I would then refine that into a song. With what we do with Rose and Cloud is it keeps me very much at the experimenting with noises end of things.
Yeah.
And it kind of stops short at the fully refining it. And what I have done on a few occasions is I have extended it into the refining stage, and I have written a few songs based on poems that Emily's written.
Okay.
So I mean, there's so many ways that this project could evolve.
Yeah, we've always said there's the potential that if we were at album territory, we'd maybe combine some of those together.
Yeah.
They're nice to sing.
Yeah.
So we have a poem and then we have a song that was inspired by the poem.
Yeah.
But it's just about where we want, I guess, the sound to go.
Exactly, and what feels right at the time.
Yeah.
I quite like being unique in the way that I'm not sure of many spoken word and music duos around.
No.
And I quite like keeping it that way. I never get the urge to burst into song when I'm on stage.
No, I think it would have to work exceptionally well for us both to be like yes.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say that couldn't be a thing.
Well, when you were, this is kind of related then. So when you appear in a pub, let's say you're appearing in a pub, how do you, as a spoken word artist, how do you keep everybody quiet? Because everybody's going, 2 pints of lager, please. All of a sudden, everybody in this pub's a cockney, aren't they? I don't know why that happened, but...
So we always go up and there is a slight... I always sense a slight confusion when we first start. If we haven't said, which we sometimes do, pre-warning, we're going to ambush you with some poetry, then we start and people are like, we kind of just thought you'd be a singing duo. And we normally get about half a song in. And I think because what we do is very different, people generally just hush.
Yeah. Okay. We've been really lucky.
Is it like a poetry? Is there like a reverence thing for poetry? Do people?
I think you hook people in. Yes, if you're in the right place, there's definitely a reverence for poetry. But in a pub, I think you get the hook because John's guitar has so much ambience and so much. It really, really pulls you in. So people stop and listen to that. And then by the time that the talking starts, people are already listening. Yeah. And then they think, hang on, we were expecting her to sing. Yeah. And she's not. So what is this going to be? And how is it? So we naturally get people focusing in on what we're doing.
One of our first ever gigs, because Bottlecraft was a given because we had a room full of good people.
Oh, great people, yeah.
Our second ever, because the thing we did on the Honey Box, it wasn't Rose and Cloud. We weren't Rose and Cloud for like a fortnight after that. Okay. It was supposed to be a one-off, and then about a week or so later we were like, I'm not ready for this to be a one-off. No. So our second ever gig as Rose and Cloud was at the Foxtel Arts Centre in Leek, and it was in the bar, and it was quite a lively room for much of that afternoon. And if you watched, because I'm assuming that you've seen the video of us performing that Tea and Oranges. Oh no,
that was the Carpenter's Arms. I think I saw.
Oh, the
Tea and Oranges.
Coachmaker's Arms.
Coachmaker's Arms, yes.
That was also another very rowdy pub.
Well, that's where I got the, all right, darling, that was kind of in the background. You could hear the glasses tinkling.
There, but it was quite similar.
It was still the vibe. But, the thing at the Foxtel Arts Centre, there's a video on YouTube by the same guy, actually, of us performing Plaza. And you can hear the cash register going off, which actually works for the poem.
It does.
But it was a full room, and we finished that set. We did like half an hour, I think it was, or 20 minutes or so. And I was packing all my stuff down, and all Em wanted to do was to get to the bar to get a wine.
You make me sound like an alcoholic. Yeah, I did really want a wine after that.
But she couldn't get there because people kept stopping her to say what, the response that we've had from people that we played to has been really lovely.
And people we have, I do and I don't like to use the term ambushed.
Yes.
But I think I do mean it, ambushed. Yeah. And they're the kind of people that if you said to them, here's a free ticket for a poetry to music gig, they'd probably say, you're right, mate.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bother. But they see what we do and actually enjoy it more than they think.
So, have you got in your arsenal of poems? Have you got loud ones that you can throw in? Because it's a bit like stand-up comedy, except I suppose with stand-up comedy you've got the chance to kind of put somebody down in the audience, and but as a poet you can't shout, can you?
No.
As a musician you can sing louder, but as a spoken word artist you can't really do it that loud, can you?
We try and have a mix. So we've got a few romantic ones. We said, what if we tend to end the night on, because it's a bit of an uplift.
It's such a feel-good.
Even though it's still ever so much feel-good for us. It's still melancholy, but it's got that little lift. Tea and Oranges is another one that we normally use those two.
Second to last.
As the ending to leave everyone on a bit of a high. We've got some that are incredibly sad, personal. We've got some that are quite experimental and dark, I'm thinking of the Steam
8.
duo 8. So those are quite like deep and dark and harrowing. Some are personal, like To Dad. But we've got a couple of angry ones. So there's one in which I rant about the state of society. There's one where I rant about somebody who basically made my life a misery at work, and they are quite upbeat and intense.
They're almost stompy, I would say.
I would say as stompy as you can get for someone talking.
If we were ever going to add percussion to anything, it would be those two.
Yeah, I would agree. The poetry and the music that we do can get quite intense. We need to be able to have a giggle between them.
Yeah, I think you need to introduce it. You can't just, here's a poem, bang, here's another poem, bang. It's like stand-up comedy. You have to introduce the joke, so you have to introduce the poem. You
need to bring your audience back in.
Yeah, you want to kind of break any spells that might be like oppressive, and just kind of break those spells, bring everybody back into the room, and then go, and now
we're doing this mood. So doing those kind of bits in between, and it's weird that I feel okay doing them now. If you ask anybody that I ever went to school with, would Emily be somebody standing on stage making jokes between performing poetry, they'd have kicked you out the room, because I hated any kind of performance or speaking at school. But you get your vibe.
Emily was good at that anyway when we started, but
bless you.
But watching the way you address people and the way you perform blossom over the life, because we've been doing this for nearly a year now, and just watching that develop and blossom has been. Everything about this is a privilege for me.
You're a star.
And you are.
Oh, crap. What about me? Hey, can we have another? I keep on wanting to say another tune, but you know what I mean.
It's okay. We don't know what to call them either. Pieces, no. I think we go for now.
I keep calling them pieces.
Yeah.
What do you want from us, John? What can you give us on the limited range of guitars that you have with us?
How many has he got? Let us know.
He's got 2.
I've got 2 acoustics here.
Okay.
But for a gig where we're maybe playing 6 or 7 songs, he normally brings 3.
I've got 3 electrics. Because I operate in different tunings. I've got one in standard tuning.
Yeah.
I've got one guitar in Dadgad. And then I've got another guitar that's in C standard.
There's people listening to this all know what you're talking about, because I'm sure my guitar's broken. I've tried it in every single bit of tuning, it don't work.
Yeah, that's for all the guitar heads in the audience. Basically different tunings provide different feelings and different sort of, sometimes a bit growly or sometimes just like really haunting sounds, and I have found those 3 tunings to be especially effective. Can we have another track?
Yeah.
Another piece. Sorry, another piece.
Well, I can do anything on the Dadgad.
If you're listening.
Yeah.
Let's do it if you listen. Because it gives a bit of a taste of Maria. Although I didn't.
Give us some intro.
So this piece is called If You're Listening to This, Then Yes, It Is About You. I had an interesting relationship with a colleague at the job that I'm no longer at. We used to be very, very good friends, and then something slightly turned. And I remember one day he came in and I was saying that I didn't want to go to some girls' night out. And he had, I don't want to say a go at, but just one of those phrases where he was like, "Oh, you're such a tomboy. Why aren't you just more of a girl?" And that idea of being put in a box in that way by somebody that you thought you knew very well and who you thought understood you was quite painful to me. So I went and had wine at lunch because apparently all of our anecdotes involve wine. And came back after lunch and he said something along the lines of, "Oh, I've been reading your poetry page on Facebook. How many of those poems have you written about me?" And I bit my tongue and I didn't say what I should have said, which would have been obscene and not suitable for fair ears. So I wrote this instead and called it If You're Listening to This, Then Yes, This Is About You.
Cool.
You tell me you're such a tomboy and spit the words like barbed wire across my interjecting lips. Like the very formation of the word pains you. Each drop bomb consonant like regurgitated cyanide pill. Would it hurt you so much to just be a girl for once? A part of me wants to try the battlegrounds of backlash, to explain to you the idiosyncrasies of identity and stereotypes, or the fact that despite your intentions residing firmly in the camp of disingenuous debauchery, other girls and boys can exchange words without their minds migrating below their unbuckling belts, or maybe the fact that none of this was really your business to begin with. You tell me I miss the way we talked, and instead of saying you mean talked about you, or about me but shone through the prism of ego that is you, I let the words falter and hide between the ridges of my clamped front teeth, as part of me remembers, folding inside at the corners in origami disappointment, how once naivety gift-wrapped each part of me, offered them foolishly with cradled flowers and crumpled post-its, asked you to inspect, to understand each wrinkled uniqueness I presented you with, and the lemon smugness in the crease of your eyes shows me each box of myself placed on a back shelf of sordid skin-crawl memory. I'd ask for myself back, but it's clear in exquisite heartbreak hopefulness I was never accepted to begin with.
That's amazing. I listened to that earlier today as well. It was just as good. That was super. I remembered the one like crumpled Post-its. I think that is a fabulous line. So thank you very much for that. No, thank you. Just a couple of things. Are you a constant writer? So are you sitting on the bus, or are you sitting on the train, or do you always have a notebook? Are you one of those cool people?
I'm definitely not one of those cool people.
Yeah, you are.
I don't know what you mean. No.
Yeah, having a notebook and looking all clever all the time instead of forgetting to put your potatoes on.
If I ever have a notebook on me, it's because I signed up to far many things, and I'm trying to organise my to-do list to be something semi-human. I'm like, I've got 74 things to do before Friday, and I work 9 to 5, so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to fit them all in. So if I've got a notebook, that's why. I don't walk around wearing a beret.
No.
But I'm on my phone quite a lot. If the mood takes me, then I have to get it down.
Yes.
And that quite often happens. Just the slightest little thing, and you'll think, right, there's a poem in there. So you have to get a line or two down. It might be an entire poem.
Yeah.
Normally I start with writing how I feel.
Yeah.
Either the poem will grow itself out of that and become somewhat formless. But if I write a few lines and I know that there's something in there that needs to be worked on, form can be really helpful for that. So I'm going to think about, okay, well, I'm writing in this way or about this subject, so I'm going to attempt to use a specific form in order to, I feel in my head it's almost like pulling the words through.
Yeah.
To give it some structure makes it not become a great big rambling thing. And that might be a fairly free form thing. I wrote one recently. I'd been inspired by someone that I'd heard on an open mic, actually, who had written like a list poem. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write a poem like that. I'm going to write something that's just a list. And the beginning of every line began the same, and the ending of every line finished differently. So it was just a list of things. And by giving yourself even that much structure helps things flow a little bit better for me.
I had a similar thing, actually. I've written a similar poem that is, at least it is a list, isn't it? Yeah, lifting weights.
Oh, yeah.
I don't write as much as I would like to, especially in terms of songwriting. I have found myself writing a lot more poetry lately.
How do you differentiate as a songwriter then? How do you differentiate between, I've just written a song and that one's a poem? How do you do that?
Is
do you not have a chorus?
A song not yet set to words? To music,
set to music. I don't know. I find with songwriting, I tend to come up with the music first.
Okay.
So I will be fiddling around with ideas. I might have an idea for a melody drop in, or I might, because I started out as a drummer, I'd sometimes operate in drum beats.
Yeah.
And then with poetry, I think I found it more, I tend not to write to a structure all that much. So
I think, again, that's only one of those things that comes from writing more.
Yeah.
You tend to get a little bit, I'm going to say, bored with your own kind of train of thought.
Yes.
Poetry.
Yeah.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with train of thought poetry. And when a poem strikes you that is that, I've got a few that are lines that almost run into lines, and they're almost train speed, going really, really fast.
So
play on that. My Sadness is one of those. Play on that. Make it feel fast. Make the reader confused about where you come in and when you go in. That's important. But I think when you start to write every single poem has the same cadence and the same kind of style, that's when you need to switch yourself up, because Otherwise, you get bored of your own writing.
Yeah.
Do you become Do you become a character? Or are you
can. I always write as me, unless it's something that's been commissioned.
Okay.
And then I try and take myself out of me as much as possible.
Yeah.
I am always me, but with an element of... I was reading How to Be a Poet by Joe Bell and Jane Kamain. And they said one of the most important things you can ever remember as a poet is not everything has to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can base something entirely in truth, but if it's going to make a better poem, change some details.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I lie with that.
Yeah. I think, I try, no, I don't try. For the most part, I seem to find myself writing about things that amuse me.
Okay.
But also I kind of recently found the ability to be more expressive. I used to save the expressiveness for songwriting and save all the kind of more brain tickly stuff for the poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And then that seems to have changed lately, and I've actually kind of plumbed into the ability to talk about what's going on in my brain.
It's an incredibly expressive medium that you can do what you want with.
Exactly. And I think in terms of the difference between songwriting and poetry is that for when I'm actively songwriting, the music, I kind of build the music up first. So the music's kind of like the bottle or like the bowl in which I pour the lyrics into.
Yeah.
Whereas with the poetry end of it, it's more that I'm just pouring the words onto the floor.
And dancing in them a little bit.
Exactly. And so there's not the kind of structure to hold them in. Since making music for Emily's poetry, I've discovered that I'm kind of building a bowl around the words, which is a seemingly impossible task, but which somehow it managed to accomplish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cheers to that.
I'm not going to clink on, right?
No, don't clink on mine. Don't clink on mine. We better go. Well, I'm running out of tape. So, digital tape. What gigs have you got? I've noticed that you're at Debrec Studios.
We are.
We're
so... That was synchronized excitement. That was something special.
Have you been to Debrec? Have you been to Debrec before?
We never have.
It's cool.
Haven't.
I was having a look at their website, and it looks like a wonderful venue.
It's a great place
because it's a recording studio / rehearsal studio /
so
cafe / music venue / bar,
record shop, everything. Where can we contact you then?
One thing.
Oh, sorry.
roseandcloud.com. Everything is there. So the link to our email, our Bandcamp, you can get to our Spotify from there. Twitter,
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. All of those things.
All of the things.
roseandcloud.com.
Yeah.
That's dead easy.
roseandcloud.com.
And is it one of them ampersand?
No.
Is it an ampersand?
Well,
no, it's not an ampersand.
In our actual name, it is an ampersand, but in terms of the web address, they don't let you use that.
No.
roseandcloud.com.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Hey, thank you very much for joining us on the Casimir Engine Show podcast. The second podcast that you've appeared on, but I'm okay with that.
Third.
Oh, no.
First UK podcast. This is important.
First UK podcast we've done.
That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it is. Thank you so much for having us.
No, thank you very much indeed. There you go. That was John and Emily from Rose and Cloud. Try and get yourself down to Debrec Studios in Derby. We're going. We'll have an annual outing. It'll be our Easter do. Do you have an Easter do? I don't think so. Hey, I'll see you next week.
The Casimir Engine. Reliably mediocre.